What's up, guys? It's Ryan Huber back at you today with a really sweet video I think will help a lot of people, talking about flight training costs. A lot of people ask me this. A lot of people ask me how they can afford flight training, how they can afford ATP, so on and so forth. And today I thought I'd make a breakdown and a cost analysis of all the different costs it realistically takes for you to get your ratings. So we're about to jump into the video here, get on my computer. I'm gonna show you guys a full cost breakdown of all the different things I did. I'll talk about all the different costs with all the different parts of training, how much it costs to get your private, how much it costs to get your instrument, your commercial, and we'll give you guys a realistic outlook of what you can expect to pay for flight training. And today we're rocking a new shirt, Good Sex, More Legroom. That might offend some people, that might be a little bit too risque. Depending on your style, whatever, man. Like it, dislike it, let me know what you think. Good Sex, More Legroom, jetswept.com, and we'll jump in and show you guys what it costs to get your ratings in aviation right now. What's up, guys? Here we are. We're talking about flight training costs today. So I made this beautiful breakdown of all the training costs, and I'm going to share this with you guys in the description. I'm going to leave a link to it below. It's a PDF of all the different costs that I analyze regarding your private, your instrument, your commercial, your multi, everything you need to become a commercial and professional pilot. So let's dig into this right away. So this is based on Arizona flight training costs in my market. And I did a couple different analyses here. I did one based on freelance training, which is what I recommend. I think the cheapest way. That's based off of renting an airplane at a flying club or renting someone's personal airplane and then hiring a freelance instructor to do your training. I think that's the cheapest way to do flight training, the best way. And that's what I did this primarily on. So I'll give you the cost breakdown of that. And then I'll also compare that to what you can expect from a flight school. Again, this is in the Arizona market, going off costs for Scottsdale Airport, where I was an instructor. So pretty accurate as far as Arizona stuff goes. So let's just dig into it. So if you're gonna be freelance training, I have a group. I'll plug the group right now. If you wanna see the group for Arizona freelance flight training, it'll be in the description below, so you guys can get information on how to get access to freelance instructors and training aircraft and such to make this actually possible, actually apply this and go do it. So this isn't, this is as applicable and actionable as possible. So to rent an aircraft, you're looking at $50 to $120 an hour. And what we're looking at is 50 being on the absolute low side. That's really if you own an aircraft like a Cherokee 140 or a Cessna 150, something super cheap. 120 on the 172 Skyhawk instrument rated basic trainer. And we're gonna use $100 an hour for this analysis because that is what I can get a instrument rated 172 in my market, $100 an hour. So aircraft, you're looking at $100 an hour. Instructor per hour, 40 to 60 is the typical freelance rate in my market. We're gonna use $50 an hour. Next, you're gonna need books and materials for flight training. I budgeted $1,000. Realistically, you might not need this, but depending on how much stuff you need, you might going off stuff, the AFM, for your airplane, a PHAC, different materials, study materials, a ground school course. You can also include in here a private pilot ground school like M0A or Sporties, so you can knock out your written test, you can pre-study, stuff like that. So we're gonna budget $1,000 for all your books and materials. You might not need that, but this is a conservative, realistic estimate for anybody who's completely new to aviation to become a pilot. So $1,000 for books and materials. Next, you're gonna need a headset. Realistic cost of a headset is about $500. For $500, you can get a David & Clark headset, a Clarity Aloft, something nice, something used, maybe used light speeds or something. There's no need to really spend $1,000 on a headset, but you can if you want to. So we're gonna budget $500, typical first headset. And again, you can go less if you want to. Next, EFB or miscellaneous. I'm gonna put this in here because nowadays it's a really common cost in flight training. We use ForeFlight everywhere. GA, professional stuff. Everybody uses ForeFlight apps, stuff like that, electronic flight bags. So you can get your licenses without it, but you're gonna need it. So we're gonna put it in here. You might need an iPad. So you can get an iPad mini for like $300 and ForeFlight for $100 a month. So $500 can cover that. Written exam, you're gonna have to take your private pilot written exam, so that'll be $150 flat at any CATS testing center, which is the most common testing center that I've found. And then check ride fees. This is a variable cost again, $400 to $700. 700, I believe, is $650 was what my last student paid for a check ride. So 700 is on the high side. It really depends on your market. I've seen them as low as 350, 400, as high as 700 to 750. So we're going to use the higher number to be conservative in this analysis, $700. So this is all your costs associated with freelance flight training, and we're going to use $100 an hour for the 172 basic trainer throughout all of the training. So $100 an hour is what we're going to use, and $50 an hour for an instructor through all the different ratings is our primary numbers for our variable cost, and then we'll have our fixed cost. So we have that, and we're going to look at the private pilot rating. If you look at the regulation 61.109, that will give you all the private pilot requirements you need to become a private pilot. And it says we need 40 hours of total time with a bunch of different little stuff in there. You can look at it. So the reality of flight training is you're not going to get your license in 40 hours. That's the minimum, but realistically, it's not really going to happen. In a super rare case, that might happen to you. But this video and this analysis is for the person that wants to do it all and become a commercial pilot. And you're going to need to do other ratings anyways. So whether you do it in 40 or 60 or however many hours, it really doesn't matter because you're going to have to train anyway. So the national average, according to what I saw on the internet, is like 59.75. So we're going to use 60. I don't know how accurate that number is, but it seems pretty accurate. That's typical with my students, with what I've seen. 60 hours is about what it's going to take you to do your private. So we're going to put 60 hours of airplane time at $100 an hour is $6,000. And then 50 hours of air instruction, because 10 hours of this time will be solo per 61.109. So 50 hours of air instruction is $2,500 at $50 an hour, and 40 hours of ground training is $2,000. The ground training can vary. You're gonna need ground to become a private pilot. I would incorporate ground with a online study course like Sporty's, M0A, King Schools, something of that nature. And if you do all this, plus the above costs, you're looking at a private pilot rating for $13,350. So that is a pretty conservative estimate number if you are doing it the freelance way or at a cheaper flight school or something with less overhead. So that's pretty conservative, $13,350. You can do it in less, you can do it in more. And then I also put in another estimate. If you ran the same numbers but based on flight school cost, it would cost you $20,100 for your private pilot's license. Now, what is that based off of? We'll go over it at the end, but that is based off of a trainer at $175 an hour and instruction at $75 an hour. So instead of $150, it's $175 and $75, which in my market is pretty typical. So if you do it through a flying club freelance, you're looking at $13,350. Through a flight school with more overhead, $20,100. Next, we'll move on to the instrument rating. So now you have your private pilot rating and you're wanting to do your instrument rating. Instrument rating requires 50 hours of cross-country PIC time, including 40 hours of simulated instrument minimum. And we're gonna add a 10-hour buffer for a combined 60-hour program per 6165. So we're assuming that, again, you don't do it in the minimum required time. We're gonna add 10 hours in there as a buffer to be conservative. So that gives us 60 total hours of airplane time, $6,000 at $100 an hour. 60 hours of air instruction, $3,000 at $50 an hour. 40 hours of ground is gonna be $2,000 at $50 an hour. Online ground school, we did put that in here because we didn't have the books and materials like above. So you're gonna have an instrument online ground school for $200. That's what Sporty's runs. I think M0A runs the same. Those are the two that I would recommend as far as ground schools. Additional materials, we're gonna just add this as a conservative buffer in case you need like maps, instrument plates, charts, $250. A nice little buffer in there. The written exam is gonna cost you $150 for your instrument written exam, unless you need to take it again, but don't fail it. And then check ride fee, $400 to $700. We're gonna use $700. And that gets us $12,300 for your instrument rating. And then if we were to run the same numbers at flight school cost, $175 an hour for your trainer and $75 an hour for your instructor, that gives you $19,300 for a flight school instrument. And again, guys, these are realistic numbers. This is like the real deal. Flight schools will sell you on the fact that they can get you done in 40 hours for a private, and they're gonna not talk about any of these costs like books, materials, ground school, any of this stuff, and they're just gonna say, oh, 40 hours times our airplane rate plus 40 hours times the instructor rate, boom, you know, it's gonna cost you $5,000. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It's gonna cost more money than that. So this is the real deal. You know, this is a realistic analysis of what it's actually going to take out of your pocket in 2019. So you've got your instrument rating. Now you want to get your commercial rating. So per the commercial requirements, you need 250 hours of total time, including 10 hours of complex or TAA, technically advanced aircraft time. This is kind of a new regulation. And we're going to assume that that complex or TAA trainer, you use it for 15 hours. It's only required 10, but we're gonna assume, again, a 5-hour buffer, a little bit more than the regulation, and we're gonna assume it's $175 an hour if you do it the freelance route. This is renting something like a Mooney, a Bonanza, a Piper Arrow, or a 172 with G1000, being a technically advanced aircraft, either a glass cockpit or a complex aircraft. And these are numbers that I can get in my market. I can call up and get a 172 G1000 for less than $175. I can actually get it for $150, and then a basic instrument trainer for $100. So we're going to use $175. All right. So to get the commercial rating, you need 250 hours of total time. You're going to come out of your private and instrument based on this analysis with 120 hours of total time. So you're going to need what? 130 more. So where do we get those hours? We're going to do a 115-hour time build. So this is you flying on your own, building PIC time, building cross-country time, building experience. And this is going to cost you, if you do it at $100 an hour, $11,500 an hour. I'm going to punt a little side note and say that if you fly with a friend who's a CFI and they're time building with you, or if you fly with a friend who's under the hood using a view limiting device, and there's ways in the regulations that you can both log PIC time and split the cost. So look into the legal ways of doing that, and you might be able to make this go in half or reduce some of your costs. Just a little tip or hint, but we're gonna assume that you don't do that, and you just fly around, build the time, $100 an hour, 115 hours, bam, 11.5. Then you're gonna need your 10 hours of complex or TAA. We're going to assume that it took you 15, so a little bit of buffer in there for you. That's $2,625 at $175. Then the instruction associated with that at $50 an hour is $750 for 15 hours. And then 20 hours of ground as far as commercial check ride ground prep, $1,000 at $50 an hour. Your written exam cost, $150 at a CATS testing facility, just like the other ones. Additional materials, we're gonna put a $250 buffer in here in case you need some stuff. Check ride fee, $400 to $700. So the commercial rating, all in all, $16,975. And if you were to do this at a flight school with the other rates we talked about, $175 and $75, it'd be $26,475. So, and I'd say most flight schools charging $175 an hour for the other trainer we talked about. It's going to be a TAA, so the complex and the basic are going to be the same, just for those who are interested in the numbers. So $16,975 versus $26,475 at a flight school. And then, so we have our commercial instrument rating, and it's time to add on a multi-engine rating. So if you have a commercial single, there's no minimum multi requirement for an add-on rating, but multi-time and a multi-engine trainer, again, you might be able to get it for cheaper than this, is around $250 to $350 an hour. And these are all wet costs. So this assumes fuel included in the rate, just for all those wondering, because I'm probably going to get a question on that. So we're going to use the median, $300 an hour. And you can find the commercial multi add-on rating regulations. That's 61.63. That's the federal regulation. If you want to look into that, make sure all my shit is correct. So 15 hours of multi airplane time at $300 an hour is going to cost you $4,500. And then 15 hours of 15 hours of instruction, $750, 10 hours of ground, $500, and your check ride fee, $400 to $700. Bam, $6,450 for your multi-engine rating if you can do it with a freelance MEI. Now, if you cannot, there's plenty of accelerated programs. You can look up week-long or 2-week-long courses to add a multi to your certificate for around $6,000 to $8,000 advertised as another option. So that's pretty standard. And $8,200 is what it is if you do it through a flight school. And the numbers I'm using for that are $375 wet. So adding $75 to the basic rate we used. So $375 and $75. So a little bit more, $6,450 versus $8,200. So, assuming all the costs that we just talked about, what does it cost for somebody who's brand new to aviation, zero time, never been in an airplane, to become a commercial multi-engine rated pilot? What is it going to cost you? $49,075 in total rating costs. I think that is a super fair number. I would feel totally comfortable advertising that to anyone. That's why I'm posting it on the internet. If you fly with me and I do your training, I will get it done for that number. I can guarantee you that. And if I don't, I'll pay the difference. Well, yeah, why not? Hold me to it. If you train with me personally, I'm not saying that I'm going to do your training, but if I happen to, and we shake hands and we agree to something, that's a fair number. That's a fair number, guys. 49,075. That's a fair number. We added buffers. We added realistic scenarios in there. If you're a little slower, it might take you longer. If your aircraft in your area are a little bit more expensive, it might be a little bit more. If your instructors are a little bit expensive, a little bit less, it could vary. So this is the number that I would shoot for somebody brand new getting into aviation in 2019, 49,075. And then here's what we based it on. Now, if you have access to a super cheap airplane, or you own an airplane and you're somehow able to get it for only $50 an hour, super cheap, the cheapest I would consider ever, like the cheapest number you could expect is $37,325, and that's assuming a $50 per hour trainer and then everything else the same. That would be really, really, really cheap. Conservatively, you're looking at $55,000 to $60,000 for your training costs. And if you go through a flight school using all those numbers we talked about, you're looking at $74,075. So doing it freelance, you're saving about $25,000, which is a lot of money, and in my opinion, a great way. So if you're interested in freelance training in Arizona Freelance Flight Training Facebook group, check it out. If you're interested in ATP, call ATP. First off, but if you have questions for students and alumni, ATP Flight School students and alumni, I've got a Facebook group for that as well. We've got 3,000 people in there. And if you have any other questions, leave a comment below. This is not including your CFI ratings, so I will make another video upon request. If you guys give me some likes, let's go for like 300 likes. If I can get 300 likes on this, I'll do a CFI cost analysis, and we'll talk about CFI ratings and the best way to do that. But I hope this video helped you guys, gave you a realistic cost expectation of what flight training costs. Leave me comments, likes, anything below. Just, I'm trying to help you guys. I'm trying to genuinely help the flight training community. So thank you, soar to your full potential, and let's get it. See you guys.